I never thought I'd be writing a post like this. My life has always been complicated, but the events of the past week have left me reeling. I'm not even sure where to begin, but I'll try to explain everything as clearly as I can. My name is Alex, and I'm 38 years old. I've been married to my wife Sylvia, 36F, for 3 years now. Sylvia has a daughter, Jessica, 16F, from her previous marriage to Thomas, 39M. Our family dynamic has always been challenging, to say the least. Some background on me. I come from a wealthy family. My parents, Robert and Elizabeth, built a successful chain of luxury hotels from the ground up. Growing up, my older brother Jake, 40M, and I had everything we could ever want materially, but our family life was far from perfect. Our parents were workaholics, often absent for weeks at a time as they expanded the business. Jake and I were raised mostly by nannies and sent to boarding schools from a young age. Despite the distance, Jake and I were close as kids. He was my protector, my confidant, my best friend. But as we got older, things changed. Jake started acting out in high school, drinking, getting into fights, skipping classes. Our parents tried to intervene, but their attempts usually ended in shouting matches. I was the peacemaker, always trying to smooth things over between Jake and our parents. After college, Jake was supposed to take over as CEO of the family business. It had always been the plan. He was the oldest, after all. But his behavior had only gotten worse. He developed a serious drug problem and was in and out of rehab. I ended up stepping into the role instead, working my way up through various positions in the company until I was named CEO at 32. Jake didn't take it well. He accused me of scheming behind his back, of turning our parents against him. The truth was, I'd fought hard for Jake to get help and another chance. But after he showed up high to an important board meeting and nearly cost us a major deal, even I couldn't defend him anymore. Our parents cut him off financially, and Jake cut all ties with the family. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Now, on to my current family situation. I met Sylvia 4 years ago at a charity gala. She was recently separated from Thomas and wasn't looking for a relationship, but we hit it off immediately. Sylvia is kind, intelligent, and grounded in a way that balances out my more high-strung tendencies. We dated for a year before getting married. Jessica was 13 when Sylvia and I got together, and she made it clear from day one that she wasn't happy about it. I understood. Her parents' divorce had been messy, and suddenly her mom was dating some rich guy she'd never met. I tried everything I could think of to bond with Jessica. I took an interest in her hobbies, tried to include her in family activities, even offered to help her with her homework. But nothing seemed to work. She'd give me one-word answers or just ignore me completely. I know I made mistakes too. Early on, I tried to impress Jessica by buying her expensive gifts, the latest phone, designer clothes, concert tickets. I realize now that probably came across as trying to buy her affection. I also know I can be intense and driven, traits that helped me succeed in business, but don't always translate well to family life. There were times I lost my patience with Jessica's attitude, leading to arguments with Sylvia about my parenting approach. Things between Jessica and me have been tense for years, but recently it seemed like we might be turning a corner. She actually initiated conversations with me a few times, asking about my day or commenting on a TV show we both watch. It wasn't much, but it felt like progress. Last week, Jessica asked me for money to go on a weekend trip with her friends. She said they were planning to go camping at a state park about 2 hours away. I was hesitant at first. Jessica had never asked me for anything before, always going to her mom or dad for money. But Sylvia thought it was a good sign that maybe Jessica was finally starting to accept me as part of the family. I agreed to give her the money, but I asked some basic questions about the trip. Who was she going with? Which campground were they staying at? Did they have all the necessary supplies? Jessica got irritated, saying I was being nosy and overprotective. She snapped that she wasn't a little kid and could handle a weekend away with friends. Not wanting to damage the fragile progress we'd made, I backed off and gave her the money without pressing further. But something about the whole situation felt off. Call it gut instinct or paranoia. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Jessica wasn't being entirely truthful. The day she was supposed to leave, I made a decision I'm not proud of. I decided to follow her car discreetly. I told Sylvia I had a last-minute business meeting and would be gone for a few hours. Then I waited down the street until I saw Jessica leave in her car. I followed her at a distance, expecting her to head towards the state park she'd mentioned. But she drove in the opposite direction, getting on the highway heading out of state. For hours, I followed Jessica's car, growing more confused and concerned with each mile. We were well past where she said she was going, and she was alone. No sign of the friends she was supposed to be meeting. Eventually, Jessica pulled over at a rest stop just across the state line. I parked a good distance away and watched as she got out of her car. A few minutes later, a black SUV pulled up next to Jessica's car. The driver got out, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It was Jake, my estranged brother, who I hadn't seen in 5 years, was meeting secretly with my stepdaughter. I watched in shock as Jessica handed Jake a large manila envelope. They talked for a few minutes, their body language tense. Then they got back in their cars and drove off in separate directions. I followed Jessica to a small motel where she checked in alone. I sat in my car for a long time, trying to process what I'd seen. Why was Jessica meeting Jake? What was in that envelope? How long had this been going on? My mind raced with possibilities, each worse than the last. I drove home in a daze, unsure what to do. When I got there, Sylvia immediately knew something was wrong. I broke down and told her everything, following Jessica, seeing her meet Jake, the envelope exchange. At first, Sylvia was furious that I'd followed her daughter, but as I explained what I'd seen, her anger turned to confusion and concern. We stayed up most of the night discussing what to do. Should we confront Jessica immediately, call the police, pretend we didn't know and try to gather more information? In the end, we decided we needed to talk to Jessica face to face as soon as possible. The next morning, Sylvia called Jessica and told her to come home right away. She lied and said I'd been in a minor car accident, knowing Jessica wouldn't return otherwise. It felt wrong to lie, but we were desperate for answers. When Jessica arrived home and saw us both waiting, her face fell. She knew she'd been caught. I calmly asked her to explain why she'd met with Jake. At first, Jessica tried denying everything, saying she didn't know what we were talking about. But when I described exactly what I'd seen, she broke down crying. Through her tears, Jessica admitted that Jake had contacted her on social media a few months ago. He'd been friendly at first, asking about her life and interests. But eventually, he started bad-mouthing me, telling Jessica horrible lies about how I'd ruined his life and stolen the company from him. Jessica said she was confused and angry. She'd always resented me for replacing her dad, and Jake's words fueled that resentment. Jake convinced Jessica that I was hiding important company documents in my home office that proved my crimes. He told her if she could get copies to him, he could expose me and get justice for himself and her dad. I was stunned. I asked Jessica if she really believed I was some kind of criminal. She said she didn't know what to think anymore. Everyone in her life had lied to her at some point. Her dad about the reasons for the divorce, her mom about how serious our relationship was at first, me about my family history. Jake's story had seemed plausible given how little she really knew about me. I took a deep breath and explained the real situation with Jake, his addiction issues, the chances he'd been given, how he refused help. I even showed Jessica old texts and emails proving my side of the story. Sylvia backed me up, telling Jessica about the times Jake had shown up high to family events or called asking for money. Jessica seemed shocked by all of this information. She admitted she'd never really thought through the consequences of her actions. She'd been so focused on her anger towards me and her desire to help her dad somehow that she hadn't considered the bigger picture. Sylvia was horrified that Jessica had betrayed our trust like this. She wanted to ground Jessica indefinitely and take away all her privileges. But I realized this went beyond normal teen rebellion. Jake had manipulated a vulnerable kid for his own gain. I was angry at Jessica's actions, but I was furious at Jake for using her. I called my lawyer and explained the situation. He said we had grounds to press charges against Jake for conspiracy and corporate espionage. I was torn. Jake is still my brother, despite everything, but he crossed a line involving my stepdaughter. For now, we've taken away Jessica's phone and social media access. She's not allowed to go anywhere without one of us. We're looking into family counseling to work through this mess. I'm hurt and disappointed, but trying to approach this calmly. Jessica seems genuinely remorseful, but it will take time to rebuild trust. I'm not sure where we go from here. How do I move past this betrayal? Can I ever trust Jessica again? And what should I do about Jake? Any advice would be appreciated. Update. 1. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to give an update on the situation with my stepdaughter Jessica and my estranged brother Jake. First, after much discussion with Sylvia and our lawyer, we did end up pressing charges against Jake. It wasn't an easy decision, and I struggled with it for days. Jake is still my brother, and part of me wanted to try to help him one last time. but the more we learned about the situation, the more serious it became. Our lawyer informed us that what Jake did, manipulating a minor to obtain confidential business documents, could be considered not just corporate espionage, but also a form of child exploitation. The police got involved and they searched Jake's home. What they found was worse than we imagined. Apparently, Jake has been obsessed with getting revenge on me and the company for years. They found detailed plans dating back months, outlining how he would use Jessica to get insider information. There were also emails showing he'd tried to approach other employees' kids, but Jessica was the only one who took the bait. Even worse, they found a large stash of drugs in Jake's apartment. It seems his addiction issues have only gotten worse over the years. He's now facing multiple charges, including conspiracy, attempted corporate espionage, drug, possession with intent to distribute, and corruption of a minor. I feel incredibly guilty about Jake's arrest. I keep thinking about the little boy who used to protect me from bullies and teach me how to ride a bike. How did we end up here? But I know it's not really my fault. Jake made his choices, over and over again. Still, seeing his face plastered all over the local news has been hard. Our parents are devastated. Mom called me crying, asking how things had gone so wrong. She and Dad blame themselves for not doing more to help Jake over the years. I've been trying to support them while also dealing with my own emotions about the situation. As for Jessica, she's been cooperating fully with the investigation. She gave a detailed statement to the police about all her interactions with Jake. The prosecutor says she likely won't face any charges since she's a minor and was clearly manipulated by Jake. Still, it's been really tough on her. Jessica's struggling with a lot of guilt and shame over what happened. She's been having trouble sleeping and her grades have started to slip. Sylvia and I have been trying to balance consequences for her actions with understanding and support. We've maintained the restrictions on her phone and social media, and she's still grounded except for school and mandatory family activities. But we're also spending more one-on-one time with her, trying to rebuild our relationships. One positive development in all of this, Jessica's dad, Thomas, has really stepped up to help. When he heard what happened, he came over to talk with all of us. He made it clear to Jessica that what she did was wrong and could have had serious consequences, but he also reassured her that she's loved and this mistake doesn't define her. It meant a lot coming from him. Thomas and I even had a good talk, just the two of us. We've never been close. How could we be, given the circumstances? But this situation made us realize we need to present a united front for Jessica's sake. We're going to try to get along better going forward, maybe even do some family activities all together. Sylvia suggested that Jessica start seeing a therapist to work through everything that's happened. Jessica was resistant at first, but after a few sessions, she seems to be opening up more. The therapist recommended we all attend some family sessions together, which we're considering. As for me, I'm still processing everything. I'm angry and hurt, but also worried about Jessica and Jake. The company is doing damage control, trying to reassure investors that no sensitive information was compromised. It's been incredibly stressful trying to balance work responsibilities with family needs. Sylvia has been my rock through all of this. She's just as upset as I am, but she's helping me stay calm and focused. We've had some long, difficult conversations about our family dynamics and how we can do better going forward. We're looking into couples counseling to help us work through this as a team. I'm also reconnecting with some old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. With everything going on with the family and the business, I'd let a lot of my personal relationships slide, but I'm realizing now how important it is to have a support system outside of work and immediate family. Last weekend, my old college roommate came to visit. We stayed up late talking about everything that's happened. He reminded me of some of the good times with Jake from our younger days, stories I'd almost forgotten. It was bittersweet, but it helped remind me that Jake wasn't always the person he is now. I'm still not sure what the future holds for our family. Trust has been broken on many levels, and it will take time to heal. But I'm cautiously optimistic that we can come out stronger on the other side of this ordeal. Thank you to everyone who offered advice on my original post. Your words of support have meant more than you know during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update. Things have settled into a new normal, but we're still dealing with the fallout from everything that happened with Jake and Jessica. Jake's case is moving forward through the legal system. He was denied bail due to the severity of the charges and his past history of drug use. His lawyer reached out about a possible plea deal, but nothing's been decided yet. I'm still struggling with mixed emotions about the whole thing. Part of me wants Jake to face serious consequences for his actions, especially involving Jessica, but another part still cares about him and wants him to get the help he clearly needs. I've been writing letters to Jake in jail. I'm not sure if he's reading them, but it helps me process my feelings. In my latest letter, I told him about a memory from when we were kids. We were at our grandparents' lake house, and Jake taught me how to skip stones across the water. I must have tried 100 times before I got it right, but Jake was patient the whole time. I'm trying to hold on to those memories of the brother I used to know. Jessica is doing better overall, but she still has good days and bad days. She's been seeing her therapist regularly, which seems to be helping. She's opened up more about why she was so angry with me for so long. Apparently, she overheard some relatives at a family gathering saying unkind things about her dad and praising me as an upgrade. It really hurt her and fed into her fears about being replaced in her mom's life. Learning this was a wake-up call for me. I realized how many little things over the years might have reinforced Jessica's fears without me even realizing it. Times when I spoke negatively about Thomas or tried to take over traditionally dad roles without considering Jessica's feelings. I'm trying to be more mindful now of how my actions and words might be perceived. I've been making an effort to spend more one-on-one time with Jessica. We've started going for walks together in the evenings. At first it was awkward and quiet, but gradually she's begun to open up more. She told me about her dream of becoming a veterinarian and her worries about getting into a good college. I realized there's so much about her life and thoughts that I never knew. Last week, Jessica asked if I would help her study for a big biology test. It was a small thing, but it felt like a huge step forward in our relationship. We spent a couple hours going over her notes together. I was impressed by how much she already knew. She just needed help organizing the information. It felt good to be able to support her in a practical way. Sylvia and I have been attending couples counseling to work on our communication and parenting strategies. It's been eye-opening to realize how differently we sometimes view situations with Jessica. We're learning to present a more united front while still respecting each other's parenting styles. It's not always easy, but I think it's making a difference. Work has been challenging. The board of directors called an emergency meeting to discuss the security breach. There was talk of asking me to step down temporarily while everything was investigated. Thankfully, my track record and quick action in reporting Jake's activities worked in my favor. I'm staying on as CEO, but we're implementing much stricter security protocols. One unexpected bright spot in all of this, my relationship with my parents has improved. They've been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. My mom even apologized for some of the things she'd said in the past that may have contributed to tension between me and Jake. It doesn't erase years of family drama, but it feels like a step in the right direction. Last weekend, we had a family dinner with Sylvia, Jessica, and Thomas. It was awkward at first, but as the evening went on, things relaxed a bit. Jessica even cracked a few jokes. Seeing her smile and laugh felt like a weight lifting off my chest. I know we have a long way to go, but moments like that give me hope. We're taking things day by day. Trust is slowly being rebuilt, but I know it will be a long process. I'm trying to focus on the positive changes and growth that have come out of this difficult situation, while also remaining realistic about the challenges ahead. Update 3. It's been about 3 months since everything happened with Jake and Jessica. I wanted to give one final update on how things have progressed. Jake accepted a plea deal last month. He'll be serving 18 months in prison, followed by mandatory rehab and probation. I wrote a letter to the judge asking for leniency and emphasizing Jake's need for addiction treatment. It was a difficult decision, but I hope this will be the wake-up call Jake needs to turn his life around. I visited Jake in jail last week. It was the first time we'd spoken face-to-face in years. The conversation was tense and emotional. Jake apologized for involving Jessica and admitted he needs help. He looked so much older and more worn down than I remembered. We're going to try to maintain contact while he's in prison, but I'm trying to manage my expectations. Jessica has made significant progress in therapy. She's working through her anger and resentment towards me, as well as her guilt over the incident with Jake. Last week, she asked if we could start having regular stepdad-stepdaughter days to work on our relationship. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. We had our first outing last Saturday. We went to a local animal shelter to walk dogs, combining Jessica's love for animals with some volunteer work. It was nice to see her in her element, confidently handling even the most energetic dogs. We talked about her plans for veterinary school, and I offered to help her research programs. Sylvia and I have continued with couples counseling. We've had some tough conversations about our marriage and blended family dynamics. But we're communicating better than ever and feeling more united as parents. We've started having weekly family meetings where everyone can voice concerns or suggestions in a structured, respectful way. Work has finally calmed down. The new security measures are in place, and our investors have been reassured. I've been more open with the board about my family situation, which has led to some unexpected support and understanding. One board member even shared his own experiences with blended family challenges, which helped me feel less alone. As a family, we recently took a weekend trip to a nearby lake. It reminded me of summers spent at my grandparents' lake house with Jake. This trip was different, though. It was the first time in years that we all genuinely enjoyed each other's company without underlying tension. Jessica and I even joked around together, something that would have been unthinkable a few months ago. There's still a long road ahead of us. Trust is being rebuilt slowly, and we all have our moments of doubt or frustration. But overall, I'm cautiously optimistic about our future as a family. This ordeal has forced us to confront issues we'd been avoiding for years. In a strange way, Jake's actions may have ultimately brought us closer together. I want to thank everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey. Your words helped more than you know during some very dark days. While our situation isn't perfect, I finally feel like we're on the right path.